Hi, everyone. We're back again. Hopefully our tech problems have been fixed, but we've got an important conversation. I'm here today with Megan Avis, our support services coordinator.
Hi,
Welcome.
everyone.
So as I mentioned before, we're going to talk about what to do when someone close to you discloses that they have suffered a sexual assault. And so I want to begin, Megan, by asking you, why is this first response when somebody reaches out to a friend or family member so important to just the whole situation? Why is that response?
Yeah, that's a great question. So oftentimes when someone has survived through a sexual assault, the first person that they tell is a friend or a family member. That even can surpass, law enforcement or a rape crisis center like us. They're going to go to their safety net first. That tends to be where they feel the most safe. And the response of this person, this family or friend, can be a catalyst in their healing journey. It can, if they're met with aggression or led to be that they're not believed, it could lead to the survivors not seeking the help that they need and deserve. And when they do speak to that friend or family, it's a very vulnerable and scary place to be. And it's important, for that friend and family member, if you're being told that your loved one has been assaulted, for you to just stay calm, believe them, and hear them out. Let them tell you what they want to tell you and kind of start there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that we're oftentimes kind of the last line after somebody maybe hasn't received the support from their family or friends that they were looking for. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I think survivors kind of test the water. So if somebody close to them is dismissive, it's also very likely that they're not going to report to police or continue to pursue this, because they will probably not expect to be believed across the board.
Exactly. And it can be that, validating point in the first, step of their healing process. And of course, healing is a journey, and you can heal even if a loved one, doesn't have the response that you may have been hoping for. But it really can make that process 10 times longer because they don't have their support system to begin with.
Yeah. So I can imagine, coming from like the friend or family member, that's I know one of the things we first tell people is first take a deep breath, because but as a family member or a friend worrying about, like, well, am I going to say the wrong thing, or being overwhelmed with all of these emotions. So looking from the perspective of a close family member or friend, what are some of the worries, or do you think that are probably most prevalent?
Yeah, I think from my experience, the most common worries and fears are not knowing, how to move forward, not knowing how to handle the situation, fear of what might happen to their loved one after, they've already survived the assault. And even just, there's a kind of common thought that we hear a lot when we talk with loved ones who are reaching out on how they can help. Has this, assault changed them forever? And it's a very scary place to be, not just for the survivor, but for their loved ones. And it is common to feel confused, angry, scared, especially if there's lots of different nuances, like maybe knowing the person, the perpetrator in the situation, being caught in the middle. And, a big common response that we see a lot is that the loved one or the family friend, they want to roll up their sleeves and take control of the situation. They want to push, their friend, their survivor, into counseling and reporting, and they're going to take control of the situation and do everything for them, which in most cases is not, the most conducive either. But it's pretty common to see that, confusion and anger, and it's totally normal to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just sometimes I think we put so much pressure, and then people are worried to say anything at all. But I think there are some probably some key principles that the friends or family member can keep in mind, just so that they don't feel so overwhelmed and how to respond, and so that they can navigate it in a way that's supportive of both the survivor as well as the whole family or group that they're a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of the resources that, I found in my research, and even just in my experience, is that we take a lot of information and we push it towards the key principles for my response to my loved one telling me that they've been assaulted, which is important. The trauma responses when someone's been through something traumatic, it varies between each person, and how we deal with our trauma is different. And accepting that, this is the survivor's journey, and they need to have full control over those next steps. It's okay to be normal to be angry, upset, scared, but you have to keep that survivor's best interest at heart, and listening to them and allowing them to kind of make those decisions. But I do find that it's much more difficult to keep yourself, you have to also acknowledge that they don't need you to fix the situation. They just need you to be there for them. But you still have to respect your own boundaries, and understanding that sometimes what you may have to offer may not be exactly what they need, but letting them know that you're there for them will allow them to reach out to you when they need you, or when they need help with finding what they need.
Yeah. Oh, those are great points. I think that respecting your own personal limitations of what you can do, but still maintaining that close relationship. That's key, because I think it's really easy for us to pour ourselves out so much for others, and it can have maybe negative repercussions on ourselves. And also,
Definitely.
I think that idea of trying to dominate or take control of the situation can also cause challenges with the survivor who's on the healing journey themselves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So when it comes to survivor disclosing something like this traumatic experience, oftentimes resulting from, sexual assault, maybe recent, maybe as a child, there are so many different situations that might happen. But what do you think are some of the major barriers or worries that might prevent someone from reaching out for help?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, there's a multitude of reasons, and they vary between, personal feelings, culture, religion, workplace. There's lots of things that might impact, but some of the most common ones that we experience and see is that the survivor will be worried about sharing that what happened to them, asking for help because of fear of maybe the perpetrator, or of not knowing what's going to happen next, or even shame. Shame is a very common feeling that survivors feel, because trauma is overwhelming in general, but when a sexual assault happens, there's so many questions that run through your brain. So it's very normal to, have these kind of varying, fear and shame reactions. But there's also things like the stigmas and taboos in religion, in different cultures, maybe their sexual orientation or gender identity, if they haven't, come out to their family or loved ones yet, that can, be a very difficult thing for them to navigate. Also, if the assaulter is a known person, either to them or, in their community, they could have a fear of backlash or getting that person in trouble because they, maybe they think it's a one-time mistake, and maybe it is, but we can't determine that, There's also, in the situations of familial perpetrated abuse, not knowing how to navigate that if it's a directly related family member, or fear of the legal system. There's lots of different communities that are impacted negatively by law enforcement, or have been impacted and have distrust of that. And it can be really scary, to navigate that, especially on your own. And one of the most common one that I see is kind of the misconception of what sexual assault is. And not that it is or isn't sexual assault, but is what specifically happened to me valid? Is that classified as sexual assault? And being unsure if they're overreacting, or if it's actually something that might need to be addressed. And that's difficult to navigate in all of that, because it's not just the actual physical acts that take place during an assault, but the emotional, stuff that impacts someone as well whenever the assault takes place.
Yeah. So those are a lot of reasons why someone might hesitate even speaking about this with a loved one. So if you're, I guess, as an individual, if a loved one has come to you and expressed this, what are some practical steps to keep in mind in how to respond in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the most important part of us talking today. I mean, of course, validating and understanding the difference in what is it like, it's okay to feel the way that you feel, but really the practical steps of putting this to use and being supportive of your loved one if they've, told you that they've been assaulted. I believe you've talked about it in previous Talk It Up Tuesdays where about VAR, validating, that their experience and their feelings, appreciating them, thanking them for telling you, thanking them for having the courage to open up and share, and then referring them, for skills or support. Sometimes that support is an internal, I'm here to help you. And sometimes it's, I'm not sure how to help, but I'm going to help you get the help that you need. And really that just all boils down to being there for them, being willing to go somewhere with them, go to the police department, go to the, rape crisis center, go to the store with them if that's what they need, or calling, someone for them if they have a question and they're just not feeling up to being able to do that for themselves. And we kind of touched on it earlier as well, allowing the survivor to make their own choices and have control in the situation. Oftentimes survivors, after a sexual assault has occurred, that control is taken away from them and they need to feel in control of it. So allowing them to have that back and making those decisions is a good step in them feeling more in control of their life again. My other, big important one, because trauma responses vary so much between person, sometimes the best thing you can do is sit down and have a conversation of how can I support you? What can I do for you to help you? Because, it's going to be different. Every time something, traumatic happens, even if it's not the first time someone's been assaulted, their response could be different than, before, and needing help, is different, and how you need help and what help you need is different. So having that open communication of, I want to support you. How can I do that? What do you think you need? And they may not have an answer for you, but it will allow them to consider what they need and what they might be looking for from the support system.
Oh, that's a great point. How can I help you in this moment is something I think that we're so busy on, oh, what can I do, that we run ahead before we stop to even ask the other person, what would be most helpful for me to do right now to support you. The other thing I will say, the acronym that you mentioned, VAR, VAR, so validate, appreciate, and refer. That's something we use here for the crisis hotlines to the short acronym to we appreciate it and it takes a lot of courage to come forward. And then we give them and connect through resources that they need. So once somebody has disclosed that response is a one-time thing. Can you talk a little bit about what maybe the process is kind of for a period of time?
It kind of cut out a little bit, starting to clear up again. Were you referencing the importance of kind of following up and checking in with survivors? Okay. Like I've mentioned a couple of times, healing from trauma is a journey. It's not a straight road. It can be up and down. It can be very different. And this journey doesn't happen overnight for most people. It can take weeks, months, or even years, to process a single instance of, a traumatic event. And some survivors may not want to feel reminded or pressured by someone asking, how are you doing? Are you okay, on a regular basis? Again, that's the important part of having that how can I support you conversation, because they may want that, but they may also want to be able to just know that they can reach out to you when they need you. Another thing that you could potentially also say is it okay if I check in with you and see how you're doing? because that opens up the door for them to accept, kind of create a boundary of, I don't want you to check on me every day. I don't want you to check on me every week. But the most important part of following up with someone is reminding them that you are there for them. Because when someone has gone through something traumatic, trauma and recovering from trauma, even if you're seeing a counselor, even if you've been processing it, can be very isolating or feel like it's isolating and lonely. And sometimes just knowing that you have someone on your side can be the most comforting part of your journey, because even if you're not relying on them for your main support, you still know that you have that person in your back pocket for when you need them. And that is, a reassuring feeling for someone who's healing from their trauma.
Yeah. I think that one of the most important factors in healing is network connectedness to other people. So even if they're not explicitly, how are you doing after the just knowing that somebody is there to go, do things with them in their journey, and just being there in case something is needed is really key. So I know that we have our crisis hotline here, and that's available for friends and families. So even if a family member has someone who's been assaulted in their family and they want support on how can I respond? How can I support? What can I do? We're always available to answer those sort of questions. Any other ways that we support families and friends?
Yeah, we also do a family and friends support group with our counseling team. As far as when the next one starts, they've been working on that. So we keep our website updated with our support groups. I believe as far as this kind of span, we're going to have a friends and family support group for English speaking and Spanish speaking friends and family. So we'll be able to support more people while their loved ones are also going through their journey as well. And all of that information will be on our website if it's not already.
That's right. We have a lot of resources here, not just for those who have survived sexual assault, but for friends and family members looking to support them as well. So, anything else to add before we wrap up?
I don't think that I have anything else to add. Thank you for letting me come out and share.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Megan, for joining us. And we will be back next week. And we are going to be doing business tracking to deal with the situation of advocacy for child trafficking. So we look forward to seeing them, and we hope that you will use the resources on our website, recording agents and page. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.